Times Square in New York, where I live, is the embodiment of busy. Traffic, sirens, huge multicolored advertisements on giant plasma screens, and for a fair proportion of us, our lives today can feel like miniature versions of this relentless churn of activity. Despite all the technology that was supposed to save us time and free us up from work, we find we're rushing around more crazily than ever. Somewhere, when we weren't looking, it's like busyness became a way of life.
Sorry, couldn't get away.
I didn't. I've got an intern in a wig doing a video conference.
You know, it just seems like that's the way we talk to each other. It's no longer, how are you? I'm fine.
I'm so lucky if I get to bed before 3, then I'm up again at 6 and it starts all over again.
It's like, how are you? I'm busy, I'm fried, I'm losing my mind, my hair's on fire.
Well, I'm actually thinking of getting my makeup tattooed on my face just to save time.
Such a good idea.
Yeah.
It's just finding the time to do it, though, isn't it?
The busy person is someone that's racing, cramming, multitasking. It's about juggling after-school activities. It's about never stopping almost from the moment you get up to the moment you go to bed.
I have a nervous breakdown, but I'm just too busy.
I'm so busy.
It's only so funny because it isn't really a joke. I'm as complicit as anyone. I only ever stop racing around in order to moan about how busy I am. But then if I ever get a day off, I start getting jumpy. Anyway, I've got to run. I'm having coffee with Maria Popova. She runs the Brain Pickings website and writes thousands and thousands of words every week, which makes her one of the busiest people I know. Something that seems very strange to me about the way that people talk about busyness, it's clearly usually a complaint, but it is also some kind of a status symbol.
I'm going to prick our little bubble of privilege here. You know, when I talk to somebody who works in the real world, how are you? Busy, good, busy. It's good to be busy, to have work, to have livelihood. So I'm very aware that it's a luxury to be able to complain about being busy.
But when you're in the grip of the busyness hysteria, it doesn't feel like a luxury. Part of it's down to living in the information age. This is a world without limits, where there's always another incoming message to check, another meeting to attend, and then when you get home, a million different streaming TV shows you ought to watch, or fascinating radio programs you could listen to.
I mean, I struggle with this, certainly knowing that even if I were just to read every email that I receive, it would take every waking hour of my day just to read, not even to reply. The other day I was out completely off the grid and there was a clear sky and I look up and all these beautiful stars and I turn to my partner and I say, remind me next time where I feel overwhelmed by my inbox to remember
Right.
this.
Right.
Because it's completely, thoroughly, existentially absurd that we take one to mean more than the other.
The 21st of October in 2015 was an interesting date. It was Back to the Future Day. So that was the day that Marty McFly arrived in the future with flying cars and hoverboards.
Tony Crabb is a psychologist and the author of a book called Busy, How to Thrive in a World of Too Much.
I think he'd have been a bit disappointed because the physical world is boringly similar, but our psychological world's completely changed. IBM recently estimated that knowledge will be doubling every 11 hours. Now, in the face of this infinite amount of information and therefore infinite amount of opportunity, activity, things you could do, it can feel overwhelming because we attach our levels of activity to this belief that we can do it all.
I think the most kind of pernicious thing is also something that's much subtler. This tendency we have to apply productivity to realms of life that should be devoid of that criterion. For example, photography was my first big love, but now the sharing of that has become its own burden. Watching a sunset somewhere quiet with somebody you love is an aesthetic experience, but posting an Instagram of that moment is aesthetic consumption.
And if you're watching the sunset and giving any level of thought to whether you might get some favorites as a result of doing so,
It corrupts the moment.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think probably in almost every sense, busyness is a systematic siphoning of beauty, of our ability to be present with and invite beauty into our lives.
It makes me think also about something else I just wanted to ask about, which is this notion in a lot of self-help advice that if you get the right system, you're not going to have to make sacrifices.
Putting structure in place allows you to produce more. But productivity is often the surest way to lull ourselves into a kind of trance of passivity where we show up for our lives, but we're absent from it.
It's not just that there's so much to do. It's also that we bring the spirit of busyness to everything else as well. We turn the whole of life into a to-do list.